typically want to win more than you lose, but you didn't really lose. You know, you technically weren't beaten, so he's cool. Why I wanted to show this is because, one, it was green tide, which everybody seems to be asking about. Is it a dead detachment? Can I run it? Where does it look? And I think Paul's path is a perfect way to kind of scale it. So for his green tide list, we have, he called it You'd Add Better Mek Gunz. I like how you calling it that. So he has a boatload of characters. Paul did not skimp out all on the characters in this. In fact, he left out some of the boys in this case. So we have a Big Mac with shock attack gun again. And this Big Mac with shock attack gun is actually going into the Mek Gunz, which is really, really awesome to see. But Mek Gunz not having AP and you not having something like Get Finder goggles to ignore cover is a big failure here. It's something that I would see as a failure and just a lack of tooling, but he's playing green tide, so he doesn't even have access to that. He's just straight up going, I'm going to hope that I can just blow these gits off the table. So, hey, he did it. Shout out to him. Then he has 3 painboys, followed by 3 warbosses. Each warboss has an enhancement. One has Ruckus Warcaller, one has Brutal but Cunning, and one has Ferocious Show Off. So he paid for all 3 of the enhancements that he wanted, didn't hold back. And then 2 Weirdboyz for that, followed by 3 20-man units. 5 20-man units of boys, 1 Gretchen unit, 1 Commando unit, the Mek Gunz that I spoke of earlier, and 2 units of Storm Boys. So he decided, I'm not paying for that big alternate killy unit like we've seen in some of the other green tide lists. For example, last week we've seen a Gargantuan Squigoth list. There's other times where people will bring Gazgul Thraka with their green tide list. I personally used to bring a Gazgul Thraka and Meganobs. A lot of people used to bring Meganobs as a whole. So in this case, he decided to bring Infiltration, probably to stop Affle striking, and to just being able to stage better, maybe even score secondaries better. So this is green tide list. I would say we could take this as food for thought going forward. If you're running a green tide list, do you bring something for a hard counter punch? Or do you bring like another anvil, right? For the most part, are you going to bring a counter punch or just more boys again? Or flash kits or Mek Gunz like he brought. So there's something for us to think about. I wanted this more as an experiment or a thought idea for the community and people to look at as a whole. Right now we have Gabriel said, the update pendulum swings both ways. I hope we can get some buffs next update. Either way, we keep on crumping. Exactly, it swings both ways, and I think that's why it's best that we take a look at it, kind of gather the information, let people know you know, kind of where we're at, try to observe why we're where we are at, and make that known to GW. That way they can buff us in ways that are actually valuable, not, you know, make the pain boss go down 10 points and be like, we fixed it. See, like, no one cared about that. You guys are tripping. Today's sponsor, Baron of Dice. So Baron of Dice has great dice. They have actually enabled us to give these dice out for our paint competitions. So I greatly advise that you go out there. We have a link in the description for 5% discount. That's, of course, because nobody likes taxes. Shout out to Baron of Dice because they are actually customizing orc dice just for us that you guys will be able to get a hold of, and they look exceptional. So shout out to Baron of Dice. Really appreciate you guys, and I really do suggest you get them. I love the actual texture these dice have. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So let's take a look at my boy Paul Martin's path to victory. So Paul Martin, like I said, he did end up going 4-2-1. So let's take a look real quick at his matchup. As for his first game, he did win this one going into the Necron Canoptic Court. So that's interesting. Canoptic Court still had somewhat teeth, especially for something like Green Tide. So we have Chronomancer, Catan Charlotte, Knight of the Void Dragon, Scorpec Lord, Technomancer, Immortals, 3 units of Doomstalkers, a Scarab Swarm, 2 units of Wraiths, just big bricked up Wraiths, Death Marks, 2 Locust Heavy Destroyer, and then a 3-man unit of Scorpec Destroyers. So some good killing potential from those destroyers here. Good killing potential with these Scorpec Doomstalkers. Not necessarily the best into orcs. Boys, obviously, because these are like more high damage of damage 5 damage. I think 3 they are. But they do all right. Immortals do as well. But something like a Void Dragon doesn't really like to see a bunch of boys, not really killing them. It comes down to, can the boys beat up something like something like the Wraith, yes, and they can actually take them out on OC. How the boys can beat them up is re-rolling wounds, which is actually very valuable into something like Wraith because they hate a bunch of damage one. Or you can simply hero epic challenge out those characters in this case, right? So even though most of the time people like to hide their characters in the Wraiths and put them behind a building high, you can't see them. When you're running 20-man units of boys, you can end up swinging your boys in a way that your boys fill up all the space and your character can hopefully kind of try to move out closer to the enemy character and bounce out and kill him even. Not always able to be done, but it can be done, and that would actually help in this matchup. So shout out to him for taking out Canoptic Court. Nobody likes the Canoptic Court. No, I'm just kidding. Then he had his second matchup. This was actually his tie, which he went into the Chaos Soulforge Warp Pack. So I actually like to see that. We have a Dark Commune, a Warp Smith, a cultist mob, a cursed cultist unit. Very annoying for their odd wounds. They have guys that have 3 wounds, guys that have single wounds. Very annoying, kind of tough unit. Kind of killy too to a certain degree. Chaos Bikers, 1-2 units of those. 2 units of Chaos and Vindicators. These guys are annoying to try to shoot. Not that we're going to necessarily shoot them, but you know, we did see that he does have a shooting kind of unit on here with the shock attack gun and the customary cannon. The fact that the Chaos Vindicator can pop smoke and armor of contempt and have light cover, it just means that it's taking great saves. Very, very versatile weapon. You guys should be aware of these. Good damage output for them as well. 3 Forge Fiends with ectoplasma cannons, Mauler Fiend, 2 units of Raptors, a Venom Callers, and a Demon Net. Not the most meta version of Soul Forge pack, but a really respectable version of it. And you would see actually Venom Crawlers, because these guys can get sustain 5+ or lethal 5+. In this case, I'm not sure which pact he's taking, but because they have strength 6 weapons, they can put stupid volume onto your boy mob infantry unit. So can something like Forged Fiends with these ectoplasma guys as well. And the Vindicators, because they're dark packing, because they can get +1 to wound and weird stuff like that, they can actually make these vehicles put a respectable amount of damage into those mobs of boys, and they're really not dying because, like I said, Vindicators having a 2-up armor save, and they can do armor of contempt. These Forge Fiends are staying far back away from these mobs, but that's where you have to hope that you could just get where you need to get with those big bricks of boys. I do think this is a winnable matchup for something like a Green Tideless. That's why I thought it was kind of interesting. He did tie it, but this is winnable because he could take the middle of the table. His biggest threats here are the Accursed Cultist unit, the Vindicators, because if they tag them, they just keep shooting their blast in combat and kind of hold the boy mob unit in place, because the boy mob wants to tag other things. They want to tag like the Forge Fiends and stuff like that, you know. But if it tags just the Vindicators, they can hold them, and then the Mauler Fiends in there too. So it was actually a quite winnable game, but there was just some things that kind of seemed to not go his way, but a very winnable game. And Forge Fiend, the Dark Sword, the Soul Forge pack does crazy damage, so that was a respectable game outcome, even though he didn't win. 78-point tie there. Great job. Then his third game where he wins here, he goes into, remember, he's playing the Nerf Green Tide guys, right? And he's going 100 boys, Kommandos, and a buttload of characters. He's going Death Guard for the smell check. He has a Lord of Contagion, Mortarion, Tallyman, Typhus, 1-2 units of Cultist. He has 1-2 units of Predator Destructors with the autocannons. These are common, will be becoming quite a bit more common with Death Guard. When they pick this, they're looking to reduce your AP, reduce your armor save by 1 as their contagion. And then they want to add another AP and with their stratagems and such like that, so they can make their autocannons reliable into elite infantry. In our case, he doesn't have any of that, so it's a combo he's not really going to be looking at. Then he has 2 units of Death Shrouds, which are pretty solid. You know, they have Plague anti-infantry kind of pistol flamers. They have sweep attacks, pretty solid into Orks. 2 unit of drones, Nurglings, Erotigus, and then 3 Carnivores. You know, in Carnivores, pretty scary if you're elite infantry, but honestly, for Orc boy units, They're not killing Ork Boy units that well. Neither is Rodriguez or even Mortarion. So this is where it's just straight up Mortarion, Rodriguez, carnivores, and those 3 Terminators are looking to pick up 100 boys. And if they can do it fast enough, because they're losing on primary and OC for the most part when they are fighting with them. So he can kill them, like we talked about before, being able to reroll wounds. He has the souped up warbosses and all these detachments, so some of them actually can wound those carnivores properly and try to tear them down much quicker than they would be expecting. He does have the Nurglings in here, so we don't know. Did he choose to make make Orks -2 to hit? That'd be a big factor, but luckily all the he has 3 war bosses for his big units of boys, so he can at least put the damage into this. This is just be that the Death Guard player doesn't realize how much combined arms it takes to kill the boys, and he has such big units with big bases and such that they might just get in the way, right? I can just pull away from Rodriguez and not let him kind of pile in or something, right? He's just so big and fat. So you can see how that could go, but reliable, respectable win there, because Death Guard are one of our hardest matchups, and he ended up winning the 3rd round Death Guard matchup. But from here is where he kind of faces his struggle. So he loses next 2 games, and he loses his next game, his 4th game, to Astromil Tom, which is notoriously known hard for Orks right now. We have Lord Solar Leontis, Bloom Command Squad, Tank Commander, followed by Cadians, Catachan, double Chimeras, Adelan Rough Riders. We have 1, 2 units, just 5 men of those. 3 Basilisks, which is super horrific for Orks because they're reducing their movement with this. Oh my god, shell shocking these boys. 2 units of Bulgrin. Bulgrin actually can tank the power claws of the unit, and they have the profiles to beat up Orks in response, so that actually does kind of suck for them. Then 2 units of Demolishers, which are just great offensive profiles. So this is just rough for Orks. Rough Riders can run in, do some good melee potential. Chimeras can hold them in place. Bulgrins can fight. Catachans can come in early and hold them back. I hope that they would, because you can give them free charges. So if he was dumb enough to give them away, that's fine. I don't think he did. The Ork player did have Kommandos as well. But this is just a hard matchup for the Ork player, just because they have the ability to beat you up with the Bulgrin, the volume between their tanks and their Basilisks. They can slow you down and then actually hit you and charge you first with some of your units, or just piecemeal your army out because you're getting Basilisks to death. 41 points win there for the Ork player. Ended up losing that one. Very tough matchup. He had to deal with triple Basilisks, Bulgrins, and everything. So, ooh, nasty. And then he had to do Blood Angel, Sons of Sanguinius. Oh my gosh, the chain swords. So we have Captain, Chaplain, Lamartis. We have 2 units of Assault Intercessors, 2 Impulsors, Rhino, 3 units of Assault Intercessors with Jump Hacks. So all of those guys, strength 6 chain swords, baby, for all of your green tide boys. 2 Ball Predators enjoying the green tide right there. 2 units of Death Company Marines, Power Fist right there. Winning all those boys on 2s and saying, this is rough. 1 unit of Death Company with Jump Hack, Infiltrator, and then Scout. So like we said, he pretty much has all the volume and killing potential to chew through a green tide list. Rough to see, but it is what it is, and that's kind of how the green tide list is kind of looking right now, and he lost right there. I think this perfectly represents shout out to Paul, right? Perfectly represents what you can kind of expect going into a green tide kind of army and how you're going. He went 2-2-1, and that one was against another pretty much skew odd data sheet matchup, it being a Chaos Demon Soul Forged Demon Engine pack list, and in that case he really could have won that matchup too. So was expecting to go pretty much 3-2 or 2-3 is where you can expect to go if you're running a green tide. Some people are simply just going to have the damage output if it's between shooting or delaying your movement or delaying your potential to score, or they're straight up going to just kill your ass with Blood Angels, for example, of green tide as well. So I do think green tide could use a little bit of buffing here. Nexus is kind of already not beneficial for them, so GW can go back and kind of buff it up a little bit. I think this was a great run by Paul Martin. Sorry I didn't put your name in this. Yeah, I should have put it in here. But this is where I think you can expect to go with your green tide list, and it's really respectable. You can beat some good matchups here. You can have some fun games with all your whole mobs of boys, and it makes you. Green Tide is one of those detachments that you really should get practice playing with it if you want to play it regularly, because playing it with enough time, proficiency, movement correctly, tagging things correctly, stuff like that is how you become good with it, not just its rules. So getting good with it now, while it's not optimal with rules, will be beneficial for you when the rules do get increased, made better, points, whatever it may be. So shout out to my boy Paul Martin for the Green Tide. Whoa! So everybody, before I close out here, I just want to say that yes, Orks are in a bad spot. As a whole, we do struggle. If you enjoyed the clip, check out the full video here. If you'd like to see more tactics, click here.
Let's get stuck in, lads!